I figured you'd have gotten your ass handed to you back there.
Kaneda, I wouldn't talk down to me if I were you.
All right, kids, on episode 45 of Kaneda's Pinball Podcast, we have a very special guest. We have Cody Miller from 904 Pinball Zion, who joined me in a great conversation last night. I just want to let it air. It was a great talk. We talk about stuff like Ghostbusters, ghosted inserts. We talk about the pinball price pulleys. We talk about whether or not there's a bubble. We talk about John Papaduke. We talk about Kevin from Skit B. We sort of cover the gamut, and it's just a really, really good conversation. So without further ado, I want to let you guys hear it. It's about an hour, but it'll be well worth your listen. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me roll the tape. All right, I want to welcome to Kaneda's Pinball Podcast a new guest to the show. And I know you guys are excited to hear interviews because that means it's not just me rambling for 30 minutes to an hour about ghosted inserts. I want to welcome Cody Miller, who is also sort of like the godfather of his own pinball media channel, 904 Pinball Zine. You might have seen Cody's interviews. We're going to talk a bit about the man who interviewed John Papaduke before that whole thing blew up. But Cody, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So Cody, for the listeners of this show who know nothing about you, give us a quick sort of just synopsis of your relationship to pinball and how you are part of this hobby.
Okay, I'll give you the bing bang boom. I grew up with a 74 Sky Jump in the house that my dad kept from his arcade in Wyoming he had in the early 70s. It eventually broke. I eventually played PC and console games, and basically, I only played Ninja Turtles and Bugs Bunny Pinball Party, like trash like Bugs Bunny Pinball Party and some other garbage
Sounds
at a
great.
local putt-putt. And then I stumbled upon pinball again when in late 2007 I moved to downtown Seattle, and 4 blocks away from my apartment was this Coney Island themed pub called Shorty's. First game was Spider-Man. After the first game, I was addicted again to pinball in my adult life, and I stumbled upon this zine called Skill Shot. And it's this treasure map. If you pick up one, if you've never picked up one, pick it up. It's a treasure map, and you just go around town. And before I left, I was like, I never bought a game when I lived there because they're everywhere. And I just did the math in my head. I'm like, if I have a certain amount of games making a certain amount of money, I can live off this shit. So I moved back to Jacksonville 2009 and found all the pinball machines. I took 2 years off, just did what I wanted, went to Burning Man, just traveled coast to coast because I was just over IT stuff. And eventually I bought a pinball machine, Terminator 2, and a Batman Forever, and then Tales from the Crypt. And I stumbled on a record skateboard shop at the end of 2011. I instantly connected with the dude in the store. I said, do you want a Batman Forever pinball machine here? And he said yes. And I was like, that was easy. And I've been a collector operator since.
Okay, so you went from being a player to a collector to an operator, sort of all a little bit simultaneously, it sounds like. And so this is what you do now for a living, right? You are a pinball operator / collector?
Right. It took me 3.5 years to figure it out. My second game I bought at a convention in Orlando, and I drove it straight to my next location. And at that location, I called other operators. I'm like, do you want to place games here and there? I was placing games for them because they're not creative. So it was this place called Aphotic Crypt. It was like a body jewelry goth store, and this operator had Adam's Family there. I said, and he wanted to move his game out. I'm like, whatever. And so I said, I delivered my Tales from the Crypt as he pulled out his Adam's Family. I got 100% there, so I was like, win-win.
Right. So what break it down. So I know there's always a lot of sort of speculation on what the relationship between establishment and operator is. Is it like a 50-50 deal? You go to these guys and you say, look, I want to put a pinball machine here. You take half the cut, I take half the cut, or is it, what's the split for like an operator these days?
I love that question because you don't get what you want in this world and you do not get what you need. You get what you negotiate.
Right.
That's life. So each deal is different. Any operator that's given 50-50 on like new pinball machines is a moron. Because there's operators out there that get 100% on a brand new game. Because if you think about it, pinball is the entertainment. In many aspects in the location, it's boring. A bar is boring. It's some chairs, it's tables, it's some generic sports on TV like you haven't seen a touchdown before, and pinball is the entertainment at a lot of venues. And I think operators they don't get that. They don't get that it is entertainment, and it's a unique thing that should get top earnings.
Right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, especially with the prices of pinball machines these days, you're dropping a $6,000 to $8,000 device inside a bar that's going to get pretty beat on. It's kind of doesn't make much sense to allow the bar to take half of that cut. So how many games do you currently have right now out on location, and how many do you have in your personal collection right now?
Almost every single game I own is out.
Okay.
I have 18 pinball machines out and 20 video games. I never wanted to do video games. I called everybody I knew. I said, hey, does anybody want to route video games? I'll give you a location. I'll help you deliver the games. Nobody wanted it. A free business. Everybody said no. So I found a Street Fighter 2 and a Tekken and this and a Ninja Turtles. And Simpsons. I started just buying that stuff too because there's not much to it,
Now, what earns better, pinball or arcade?
Pinball all day, every day. But bang for buck, you get a $400 Street Fighter. Ooh, just buy them. Just buy Street Fighters, buy Mortal Kombats.
Right.
They just, even if you set to ungodly hard, like I have a Street Fighter 2 15th anniversary, kind of proud of this. They programmed it to be ungodly hard after the first one or two characters you fight, and people don't care. They after a minute they're pleased with their 50 cents. It's kind of funny. Whereas pinball, they're like, well, I didn't get to play for 30 minutes on 75 cents. That's really obscene that people think that they should get half an hour of enjoyment out of $1 on a new game. That's my only beef about the new Ghostbusters and like modern games on route. It's not about ball time. It's about earnings, man. It's not,
right.
And if you suck at pinball, you're not going to get your money's worth, But if you're decent, you still might not get your money's worth. But the games are flashy now,
Right, we heard a lot when Ghostbusters came out, and it was pretty apparent that it was a brutal game. A lot of people were saying operators are going to hate this game because people are going to get frustrated and not play it. But it sounds like it's the complete opposite, right? You want a game that's a little bit immediately gratifying, but also doesn't have someone sitting on the Hobbit for 45 minutes on one ball, trying to unlock 31 modes.
Well, Lord of the Rings historically has been a very... I have one route. It earned very well. Hell, I had it at a Magic the Gathering card shop that was really hip on it. Very long ball times. Some of my customers said, oh, I got to destroy the ring. I'm thinking, well, they sure got their money out of 50 cents. But Ghostbusters, every single collector operator I know, it's their best earner of any game they've had in recent memory.
Right. So let's talk about Ghostbusters and the issues that are plaguing it right now from an operator standpoint, right? Because we've heard so much about the issues with ghosted inserts and the issues with the ball jumping over the railing on the sides and the center drain issues. Do operators really give a crap about ghosted inserts or some of these other things that the collectors sort of freak out about?
Operator, no. Operator only cares about earnings. Collector operators are kind of twisted in the head because they want the game to work right, but they understand that. I mean, if it's a new game, it should work 100%. Honestly,
Right.
you're charging $1,
Right.
you know. But we have one locally at a bowling place in St. Augustine, and since about 2 days in, the Slimer doesn't work. Well, this operator does not fix it, and it's still $1. So what do? You disable it and make it 50 cents, 75 cents. Do you eventually fix it? But another operator I know has, I can attest that the ones coming out now do work out of the box. A friend of mine bought a Pro. Slimer worked day one out of the box, as close to 100% as the Met can. That was a production date of a week prior to that. But there's other ones on route and I've played and they work. But yeah, they should work.
Right. Well, what's your right now? Out of the variety of pins you have out there, what are your top earners on location right now?
Super Mario Brothers.
Really?
All day, every day. It's a me, Mario. He says, more money, please. He's so fucking polite. He's whereas, because unfortunately, a lot of customers don't even know how to hit start. You talk to any operator or any collector operator, they're going to attest to that. Whereas Mario's it's a me, give me your wallet.
Right.
That game, I got ACDC Pro. I mean, anything modern, pretty much earns. X-Files just fine, but for me, it's bang for buck. I don't have much in Mario. I don't have much in X-Files hell, I have a big house. I'm the only one on route in the universe. I found it some dump place in Tampa and brought it back from the dead. I don't really have much in it, but bang for buck, it earns better than a new game would.
Right.
Most new games. So it's if you have a cheap game, to me that's what it is. If you have a new game, it better earn, because if it plummets and it earns what a $2,000 game should earn, proportionate. It's all relative.
Sure.
And it's just you're doing, you're doing a favor to pinball players, but
Right. Well, it's interesting. So when you look at new in-box machines now, are you looking to put it seems like you're looking to find games to put on location that you could probably get for a good price, but that will be enough of a good theme to attract people to jump on it, right? So if Super Mario Brothers is earning great, I mean, why would you even bother, with these new prices of $7,000-8,000? You're gonna have to work 5 times harder in terms of getting your ROI on those kind of games, right? Do you even look at new in box now, or do you mainly look at stuff that's just used and available at a good price?
Right. So I only have one. I only got one new in box game. I traded a routed Lord of the Rings for a new in box ACDC about 3 years ago. It was win-win. I mean, the guy sold it instantly for $5,500. I intend on getting a Ghostbusters Pro. I'm trying to wait out the Slimer mech problem. I don't call it ghosting because ghosting is already a term for LEDs. I call it separation anxiety. Right. That's what I call, because it looks like that. And it happens on Spider-Man, which is a Genesis game called Separation Anxiety. But yeah, I would get a Ghostbusters Pro. I have a movie theater location. I just talked to them today about, I intend on doing it. I would sell older games to facilitate it, because all my research of other operators telling me that it earns like no other game. I mean, hands down.
Right.
To me, it's a hit.
Right.
Because I helped my friend pick it up and I played it. I played for 4 hours straight last week.
Right. I think that's why people are probably so frustrated with the issues, is that on the other side of the coin, the game is so much fun and addictive to people, right? So it's like nothing worse than, I love the game, but every time I stare down at the playfield, I'm frustrated because I'm seeing ghosted inserts and clear coat chipping. So have you been following? Are you on Pinside, Cody? Have you been following all the drama around Ghostbusters and Stern's sort of lack of response to the collector on the machine?
Yeah, I watch it. I'm high protein on Pinside, and I've kept an eye on it.
What do you think they're going to do? I mean, what do you think if you bought an $8,000 Noom box Ghostbusters LE, right, and you were having some ghosted insert issues or separation anxiety issues, what do you think their response is going to be?
I mean, well, you can't fix it, so you'd have to throw them a new playfield. I mean, if they're fortunate enough to live in like a city, there's always tax. And what happens with this is from my experience and I've seen of other people is when they have a problem, Stern has been good about sending parts or a populated playfield. When the AC/DC premium
Right.
playfield was just mud.
Right.
They sent new ones. I've known people with a Tron and problem. I've known people with Metallica and problem. And to me, some of these things are not like new playfield, new game worthy. But I have seen people get new game. I don't want to say for every instance, but sometimes new games or populated playfields. I have seen that happen for certain things. Talking to a local dealer, he believes that it's not all of them, and it's not a lot of them, and it's something that they'll be able to narrow down. How mad would I be if I bought a Ghostbusters LE that's it's got insert problems? I don't know. Like I would have it on route right now, still earning. That's for sure. Like
right. Well, it's going to be interesting because I know Gary Stern actually has started to respond to some of the owners individually, and it sounds like Stern is going to have some sort of playfield program that they're going to set in place with distributors to sort of let people know what their fix is. So I think this has sort of become the most prevalent dialogue and dramatic situation all summer in pinball. And it's going to be interesting because I think that these collectors, they're not operators, right? And they spend so much money. I feel like people are going to demand populated playfields because we know that most of the guys who own these things couldn't possibly do the service themselves. So we'll see how that plays out. But are you in terms of like, so everything you buy pretty much goes on location. Like you're like, I'm going to buy something to put it out there to make money off of, right? Do you have any machines in your home at all, or is it all out?
Yeah, I've got a Joker's it's just in shambles. I'm eventually fixing that for route. That's it. I mean, that's really about it.
Right. Okay, so like, what's the market like right now for as an operator? Like, is business booming right now? Are you seeing a resurgence in pinball? We keep hearing about that on Pinside, and I always wonder, like, is it as big as Pinside says it is? Or, I definitely see more barcades popping up in New York City. I see more pinball going on to location. What's business like in 2016 compared to when you got started?
Okay, I'm gonna kind of throw Seattle under the bus here. So when I moved there in 2007, I got hooked October, November, and I went everywhere in 2008. And for this being one of the meccas for pinball, I would play an Attack from Mars with half all the GI out. I would play Medieval Madnesses that are just total black playfield, just dirty, and people would accept that. I know. We're thankful that the Attack from Mars or Medieval Madness on route, but I mean, back then, you could put anything out in like the hot spots and it would earn. And I don't know how they are now. I've been there since 2010. It got a little better, but when I'm playing a Dracula and half the lights are out, right, that's not acceptable. And and this is like one of the meccas. And now it seems like coast to coast because in 2000 and 14, I had an IT traveling gig. I did servers, routers, switches, and all that jive at a bank. And I went to, like I said, New York City. I was in LA. I was in Texas. I was like everywhere. I went to every barcade I could, and the quality's there. And people aren't putting games out. People put games out because they love pinball and they want to give back. But if it doesn't earn, it's not going to be out. And most of the games, I don't know how to say this, but I think most games that are out right now that are used were not on route 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. They were like in someone's house, in an operator's warehouse. They might have been broken on route. So we're at this point where a lot of stuff on route now is not on route, and then there's new games, and so it is an upswing. As long as I'm getting new locations every year. I'm preparing for new spots. I'm not thinking, well, I'm going to start dealing games. If I ever get to the point where I'm thinking about being a dealer, then we're hitting a peak in the market in general. But I'm certainly not.
What do you mean by that? So explain, what does being a dealer mean for games? Like you're flipping games or restoring games?
Flipping, yeah, all that jive. I mean, that there's still a market for that. See, there's more collectors than there are people that'll flip. And basically it's the supply demand factor. There's scarcity in the market for all games. Even if it's a turd like Wipeout, where is it? I mean, a lot of these games you can't find. Used to be at all times you could find, a Getaway, or you could find, I don't know, common stuff.
Right.
But now it's like these common games are like 1,000 more than they were 2-3 years ago, and they're being collected more than flipped, and all games are becoming harder to find. So what are we doing? A lot of people are buying new games because they can't get what they want. Why not? Why not? This is the time to just buy what you want if you can afford it, and not wait for, I'm going to wait to get it used from some collector later. I mean, everybody's buying everything. Dealers I know that sell stuff for a living. They've said for the past year it's hard to find pinball to sell.
Right. Now, let's talk about that, because do you think we're getting to a point where we've got I would say the most of the pins that people are collecting, whether either you go new in box, but you've also got just tons of games from the 90s and early 2000s as well that are restored or home use only. Do you think it's going to get to the point, though, where there's just oversaturation of games that are for sale, or the amount of collectors just growing each year? Where, if you take a game like Tales of the Arabian Nights, there's not that many available for the collector, but are we gonna get oversaturated because there's also so many new games coming out? I mean, I think I counted 6 new in-box titles are going to be coming out in 2016 alone, and who knows what the future holds with all these new boutique companies popping up. Are we going to reach a point where the bubble's going to burst? I mean, everyone's been speculating about that. What are your thoughts?
This isn't a stock. This is a real item. There's no stock options up and down for pinball machines. So it's a very, 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 very finite market for restored stuff. That's a niche market. If anybody is in that market, they're walking on eggshells, because it's not easy to get someone to pay 7, 8, 9, 10 grand for a restore, 15 grand for a restore game. That's a finite market. But anybody who wants a Bobo $2,000 DMD game, there's a lot of people out there that haven't bought a pinball machine yet. Decent A titles that are now,
right,
$4,000, $5,000, $6,000. There's still people out there that want it, that they could sell to. So there's more people out there that don't own pinball machines than do, and I would say there's more people out there that would would buy pinball machines if they got it, if they understood it, and if they thought it made sense, or at least tried, then probably own them now. So this theory of a bubble is it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, I've heard this about 10 years ago or 7 years ago, and all these, it's not really a theory that's holding up,
Right.
especially because stuff I want I can't find. If it's hard for me to get a duplicate of a game, then it's like there's this really fiery scarcity.
Right.
But once I can get stuff readily, if I can get 5 Marios tomorrow, it's deflating. But I can't.
Right. I think it's true. I noticed that in the even in the arcade world, there's like everyone would always say, and you see this on Pinside, like the price police, like they always try to say what something's worth, but something's only worth what if something is worth what it takes to pry it from the hands of another collector. I'd always go on the arcade forums and be like, I really want a Neo Geo, like a restored one. What's it worth? And everyone would be like $800. So I'd be like, all right, I'm offering $1,000 for a mint Neo Geo, like 4 slot. Nobody would want to sell it from their collections, right? Because they're still hard to find. And then I'd be like, I'll offer $1,500, and they all be like, Kaneda, you're a fucking spoiled brat asshole who's ruining this hobby because you're trying to inflate prices, but still no one would sell it. So I'm like, and I think the same is kind of true, in pinball. I think the games that are going to sort of be maybe on their own sort of bubble are just the new in-box games, because I think on some level I think there's gonna be an inability for so many new in-box titles to hit within a year and all get like 10 grand from collectors, right? Because those games are not going to go on route. You can't tell me, Cody, that like the Big Lebowski or Hobbits or what else, Thunderbirds, if it comes out. I mean, these games are now costing, I mean, people are not putting Ghostbusters LE on route, really. Some people might, but for the most part, these premium price pins, it's going to be interesting to see if they all can sort of find homes with them all hitting within such a short period of time. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, it's at the point now where 3 pinball machines, new in box, are going to cost you $27,000.
Okay, Stern knows what they're doing. Whether Jack's doing more right than wrong because games are being made. I think that their philosophy of shipping them to operators first was smart. No comment on how they're holding up on route. From my experience, Big Lebowski, someone might route it. Funny side note, I threw down $250 on Predator when he said he was going to make it before like they showed anything, and when they said, "Oh, give us more money," I'm like, no, I didn't even play it. So I only had 250 in because that's as much as it was worth to me.
You dodged a bullet there. I also lost 250 on Predator because I went into and I offered to buy a guy's spot from him for $500, and he sold it to me, and I was like, 250 of that's non-refundable. And the same thing happened. I was like, and I mean, did you see on? I know we're sort of sidetracked a little bit, but do you see the court documents on that just hit this week?
Yeah, I've gotten letters about, hey, from miscellaneous lawyers, like, hey, it's in Chapter 7. I'm like, it's $250. In the grand scheme of my life, big deal. I just want my shirt that says I survived Predator Gate, and put like number 81. That was my number on the back. And he referenced me and like 2 or 3, whoever else is going to route it. In the interviews, he says, well, there's people that are going to operate on them,
Right.
And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's me. I was going to put that in a movie theater. So, right. Yeah, it's a chopper's going.
And I was like, what's that noise? I'm like, are you okay?
The chopper. I'll get my 250.
Well, there was like someone shared basically the bankruptcy files that was really interesting, because I mean, basically what Kevin's trying to do is declare bankruptcy and not let people know where the $1 million went. And it's just kind of crazy. I mean, there's like these instances where like he he took out like $97,000 from Skippy's account into, and wrote it, like gave it to him personally. I know he tried to buy his wife, or he bought his wife a house for like $30,000, went to that. The speculation is he went to some offshore islands a few times, and people are wondering if he set up accounts there. That'd be, I don't know if that guy's smart enough to do that, but it's just crazy that he is waking up every day with all those people's money, and not a penny has been retrieved. I think that is, along with J-Pop, and I know, Cody, you interviewed J-Pop right before he brought his empty cabinets to Expo. What was that like, talking to J-Pop?
It was interesting because I typically do a video interview, and I had to send him questions beforehand when I was emailing him back and forth online, and he said, how is this going to be done? I said, video. He says, oh, I don't do video. So I had to run to Radio Shack and get a mic, test it on the way there. And but yeah, it's an interesting thing. I was thinking today about it in a nutshell, that he's kind of Willy Wonka of pinball, but with no Oompa Loompas to build the games. So, he's just Willy Wonka. He's just a dude, and it's kind of creative. They got really great art from Zombietti, and he had other people working on audio and things. He didn't say this was off the record, so I'll just say it. He said that when I was talking to him, that at one point he was offered to do Avengers at Stern. I don't know whether that's true or not, but that's what he said, and he declined. So then he kept doing Magic Girl and things like that, and let's just say he was working on other stuff in the back, so he kind of was working on far too many things at once to even be focused on one game. When I asked him in the interview, I said, so you're making the game you want to make? And he says, no, I'm making the game that people want. I should have known at that point. I'm like, no. Like, I listened to all his other interviews. I'm like, at that moment, I'm like, no. No.
Right.
This isn't going to work out.
Right. I think it's a really good assessment. I took a lot of flack because I started talking to John, I remember he was supposed to reveal Magic Girl to the world. I think it was like in December. I don't even know what year it was. I think it was like 2014? I think it was supposed to be the reveal. And so I started talking to him probably in like October of that year. And I was like, look, John, I've been hearing so much about Magic Girl. I really want to, I think we should reveal it to the world in a better way. Because at that time, all pinball reveals were just the biggest, I'm a marketer. They were like the shittiest reveals I've ever seen of like an exciting product. And we were going to get John a big exclusive with Wired. And we had all the wheels ready, but the editor would just be like, well, can we go shoot it? Is it finished? And it would just be like month after month of no. But talking to John, it is a little sad, because I do think in his head the guy is pretty much a design genius when it comes to pinball. But like you said, he needs the Oompa Loompas to sort of make everything, and he had nobody, and he just got lost in his own web of trying to re-engineer the entire thing, whether or not you should, all the way down to like the bolts on the freaking legs to make them spikes. He couldn't finish anything, and I think it's a shame, and he probably should have taken that Avengers job with Stern, and who knows, we maybe would have seen a Ghostbusters designed Papa Duke machine from Stern with Zombietti on it.
He had people help along the way, and it's cognitive dissonance. It's like he just didn't know. Like, he really believed like it could somehow magically work, and that's insane. And honestly, I just have to say, like, I can only speak for myself. I won't give anybody a lot of money without a guarantee, and even guaranteed writing. All my dealings, I only do handshake deals. Honestly, if I need a contract, I don't trust you. I just do handshake deals in my business, but I'm not giving someone 10, 15, 20, 30 grand that hasn't made a pinball machine in X amount of years, that doesn't have a company behind him. That it's a
Well, that's an interesting question. So who's the bigger fool, right? J-Pop or some of the guys who paid for all 3 games in full before?
It's not even that. It's not even that, because if you can afford it, you'll do it. That even if you can't, you'll eat the result of that. But most people that put money down, that was extracurricular. That was spending free fun money.
Right.
And it wasn't fun, it sucks.
Right.
But it was a gamble. It
Right.
was an option. And just like the people are buying new in-box games, this is going back to that. I've met people that have like boxes of Avengers LEs in their house or other games in their house. They thought it was an investment. It's a product.
Right.
It's a game. I think that's fading away. The hype for that is fading away. Outside of like Ghostbusters LE is worth,
Well,
if you have that, leave it in a box if you have 2.
Right, yeah, what's so interesting, so I have a Ghostbusters LE on order. Luckily, mine has not shipped with any issues, and right now the line is frozen. So I'm kind of excited because I might get one of the few that has where Stern corrects the issues before they ship. So it's getting to the point where like maybe a late run Ghostbusters LE new in box will become the rarest and the most sought after, right? And look, what confused me too is, and I agree with you, Cody, is a lot of people were speculating on a lot of pins. And I often hear that like Avengers LE was the one that burned everybody. Transformers continued the burn. But because people were still chasing the next Tron LE, they were tracing like the big back in the BIB ACDCs. So, but when I went in on Ghostbusters, it was so easy to reserve an LE. You could just send any distributor $100. That's all Trent required. I could have bought 5. I could have given a check for $500 and had 5 new in box. And flipping them has been super simple. I mean, I got a guy on the hook to buy mine for $9,500. I paid $8,000 for it. Now, I'm still not sure I'm going to sell it just because I just might want the pin. I mean, I think it might be worth just keeping that pin and just waiting on it. But it's going to be interesting, to see what the future is for these LEs and if it can be a sustainable, sort of short-term investment for people. Because when I look at the Hobbit especially, people are flipping those things. I just saw some guy put a Hobbit SC up for sale today for $7,500. It's like people are losing money on these things in short-term sort of emotional purchases, and they're not all going to hit.
I don't know about losing money. If you pay $8,000 and you play it 500 times at $1 a play, you're not really losing your butt. I mean, the kind of like,
that's true.
Like you won a game and you've owned it. You're like, cool, you got it out of your system. It's what is that worth? Is that worth $500 that you owned it? Is that worth $1,000? Is that worth $100? Like the value, like everything has a value.
Right.
So like once I've had games, I'm like, cool, I'm over it. Now I don't have that kind of suspense in the back of my head, like, oh, I'm looking for it and I want it.
Right.
I'm not like wondering when I'm going to get this game. And they're going to keep making, they're making them.
Well, I mean, like it's what's fun about this era of pinball is we've never had the amount of companies making new pinball machines. Like there was always just like you had Stern, you had Bally Williams, you had Data East, but Capcom, but Gottlieb, but there was never the volume of companies that there is now all jockeying for collector dollars, right? I mean, right now you've got, I'm going to try and count them. So you got Spooky, you've got JJP, you've got Stern, you've got Dutch Pinball, you've got Highway Pinball, you've got Home Pin with their Thunderbirds, you've got I'm at 6 right now. Am I missing any? Who am I missing? You got Planetary Pinball with the remakes, right? That's 7. Plus, you got the Pinball Circus guys if they ever make that. I mean, so my point is, all these companies, and some of them are structured right now where they're going to have factories that should be able to pump out more than one title per every few years. So I'm excited because I love the fact that we could have a Star Wars. The rumor is that Toy Story is going to be JJP's number 4. Pat Lawler is going to be JJP's number 3. There's going to be a Batman retheme, it sounds like, coming from Stern. There's just so many games coming out that every 6 months we're going to see, a pin or two available. I mean, that's exciting. I mean, if you said that 10 years ago, people would be like, you're crazy.
Yeah, it was. I mean, even if you look at the early years of Stern, it was rough. It was all like Striker Extreme, High Roller Casino. I mean, it was not good.
They were.
I would never have bought, like, if I was an operator, I wouldn't have bought that stuff. Like, right. I would have kept Addams Family out. I would have kept, like, South Park. Like, South Park's still earned. But yeah, volume wise, it has been a lot higher in pinball. With you had Capcom, you had Sega, Williams. But I think the unique games coming out, like Big Lebowski would not have come out 10 years ago. Ghostbusters. See, a lot of these games, like Ghostbusters, you could say it could have happened in the 90s. But why not wait? Why not let the nostalgia build? Like, right. It didn't have to happen in the 90s.
Right.
AC/DC could happen in the 90s, 2000, right. Early 2000s. It's, my question is, how many good themes are left? Like, good themes that could sell, like AC/DC, like maybe a Ghostbusters. I don't know. I mean, Star Wars, but it's kind of a rehash.
Right. I mean, I think there's a good amount of nostalgic themes that Stern could go after, or JJP. I mean, you can go into like Ninja Turtles, you could go to Thundercats, you could go to He-Man. You could go through all the '80s cartoons that people loved and make amazing machines based on the freaking Smurfs. And there's just something about, if you look at the buyer of these machines now, especially the collector who's in their 40s and 50s, if you look at the era that is nostalgic to them, it's right in that sweet spot, right? And I mean, there's a reason why even like a show like Stranger Things is so popular right now on Netflix. It's like this like 80s, 90s like resurgence is going to be around for a while. And I think Stern is learning that. I mean, even with like the 66 Batman retheme that is the rumored to happen. I mean, the fact that Stern now can make money a second time over on machines that have already been R&D'd and just reskin it is I think a genius move on Stern's part.
It's happened in pinball, and it should have happened more by now. Family Guy with Shrek. I mean, Family Guy, why wouldn't that be remade? They made like 400 of it.
Right.
Yeah, it's I know, Stern knows the demographics. I don't know if the other companies know what their demographics are, but Stern knows what they're doing. They know their demographics. It's people in their 50s. It's people in their 40s. The X factor is, are people in their 20s and 30s going to buy pinball machines as much as people in their 40s and 50s? I have no way of telling.
They can't afford it. They can't, unless you're rich and then you're an iBanker. There's no way people in their 20s are dropping like $8,000 on a machine. You just can't afford it. I mean,
well, even $5,000. I mean, like if you have good credit. I mean, the bubble. We are in the credit bubble right now.
Right.
We are in the biggest credit bubble in the history of man. And I don't know. I mean, if you have it, use it. If you have it, utilize it and build up the best you can. And that's an X factor too of pinball, is people have credit. And I don't know how many people are buying games on credit, but I'm sure they are. Why not?
Right.
Why not?
I mean, most of the people I know who are into pinball, like the concept of even owning a machine to them is so foreign. Especially I'm in New York City too, because it's like they don't have room, and secondly, it's they're just working hard to pay their rent, and so the notion of an $8,000 machine is super surprising to them. But throughout America, though, and I've been to all the different conventions and expos, there's plenty of multimillionaires out there that if, collecting pinballs is a lot cheaper than collecting cars and collecting watches and in other areas of entertainment, it's not that bad. One Mercedes S-Class is not even a collector car, is like $120,000 now. So you could slice that up into an amazing game room of new in-box pinball machines. But Cody, what game are you most excited about that's currently like new, and what game, like looking forward, are you really hoping comes out that is a theme you've been waiting for?
Ghostbusters is great. I like playing in tournaments. I run tournaments in Jacksonville. It's a player's game. I really enjoy it. I played the LE shortly at Southern Fried. It's the first I plunged the ball, and the first thing to do was hit one of the Magnus Lings and threw the ball up the left loop again. And it's a very dynamic game. There isn't anything quite like that. There really isn't. There's not a game quite like Ghostbusters Premium LE, or even the Pro. I mean, Pro is neat. Alien, I wonder, because it's Dennis Norman. I mean, Dennis Norman makes great flow, unique shots in games. Shopping out a Demolition Man for a customer right now, and he really makes unique shots in his games. So he had worked on that.
But you got to wonder like why he left so early on. I mean, that whole thing was kind of sketchy, if you ask me. I mean, he kind of just like jumped ship.
No. I mean, he's a hired gun, and he works on what he wants to work on. To me, that's what's up with him, because he's worked on other games too. With the P3 and this and that, and like, why are you gonna hang out after you did your part? I mean, there's a lot more to it. I mean, designing I'm not saying it's simple, but you design the layout of a game. The rest of it's like the mechanics. They're not going to have him around for mechanics and things like that. And now he's going to do stuff with Stern, which I'm really excited about. I know he's been working on he's been working on playfields.
Right.
Constantly on his own time.
What have you played P3? What are your thoughts on multimorphic, and if you think that's a viable technology for this hobby?
I'll tell you this: you go to these called David Buttholes. It's a scam. All these big FECs where they're glorified iPad games, Fruit Ninja and garbage like that, and they earn, and that factor of having a screen. Flashiness is a big deal. I mean, that's why you have to have LEDs in a pinball machine. Now, Hobbit and Wizard of Oz. There's nothing that looks like visually like it. Most people care more about the play field, what's going on with the ball. But I mean, I look at people that play my games, and I even play them, and I think like a customer, I'm like it's a ball. Sometimes right. I just think like it's a ball, like, but I know the rules, so I'm like, all right, cool, I'm shooting for this, that. You have to have, sometimes you have to have that wow factor, but FECs aren't going to be buying P3. I mean, that to me would be the place to sell it. That would be the place to show it off and to kind of hustle it. Would be like, Dave and Buster's, and if you get them into a Chuck E. Cheese, they would earn. They totally would earn.
So as an operator, a game like that just looks like it's so much different and has so much more visual sort of pop to it, is going to do well.
No. It has neat mechanics, and it's
So,
like
so
visually
you're
pleasing. But
so
I wouldn't. I
you know,
don't. I don't think it would earn on route.
really? But you think like at those locations you mentioned they would do better because that type of
Not my
stuff.
locations though.
Right, right.
Like, I mean, a movie theater, like at a movie theater, I have a Doctor Who and a Revenge of Mars. Well, Revenge of Mars is very sci-fi. People play it. Doctor Who. I mean, there's so many Whovians out there. You know, even if you don't know Doctor Who, it's a good-looking game. Um, I would like to see what the earnings are. I really would. Um,
Right.
so
Well,
I want to see someone route it.
right. Well, hopefully it comes out soon. I mean, we were talking a little bit about this in an episode like a week ago, but I was just going a rundown of all the machines that should be out by now, and I think P3 has done the tour of the country 5 times over, and it's at the point now where Jerry just needs to start shipping them. I mean, if it's I think enough people have seen the technology. Now it's time to just see if there's actual demand for it. So hopefully we see that in the next like 6 months. So Star Wars, are you a big Star Wars fan? Like that's a rumor, Stern title that's supposed to be somewhere down the line.
It makes sense. I watched the good 3 movies once or twice, then the not so good ones once. I won't watch the new ones. Yeah, but the demographic is perfect. They're gonna sell out of the LE. The premiums are gonna sell like hotcakes. When I talk about Star Wars to just casual pinball players or collectors, they go goo goo and gaga about it. So it's money in the bank.
Right.
It's gonna sell. I don't even think it has to be good. It could just be like. My thing is it should have toys in it. Like if you have a game like WWE, which frankly that fan base can afford a beer and maybe order pay-per-view a year, so that's not a good demographic for pinball. But if they were going to do it, to me, WWE right, it would have had toys in it like Transformers did or Champion Pub, like something like that, something very George Gomez stuff.
Right.
But like Star Wars at East has that element. It has the toys in it that are some stuff to look at. It really should have a lot of flow, like Steve Ritchie flow to me.
Well, I think Richie's doing it. Isn't that the rumor that Richie's doing it? And
I've heard everything here or there, but to me, like if you're gonna have Star Wars, you have to have a video screen. You can't do dots again. 3 games with
well, that's
orange or red dots.
That's confirmed. That's confirmed already. Jody, their head of marketing, already said the next game is LCD moving forward. So what it needs, and if it doesn't have this, I'll just be forever disappointed in life. It needs to have like Kylo Ren grabbing the ball, like he's force grabbing it and like moving it, because if they don't use magnets heavily in a Star Wars game, then I think it's gonna be a miss. Like I don't want to see it just like a Game of Thrones kind of flowy game. I also want to have some. I need to see the ball doing some magical Jedi shit, or else I think they've sort of missed an opportunity.
Yeah, J-pop is pretty good at kind of doing the magic type feel of shots and games. Mist multi-ball is a very great gimmick, but it doesn't really like translate. It's like, wow, that's Mist. No, it's a ball going across the playfield and it looks cool, but it doesn't really convey the Mist. No one says like, oh, that's Mist. It's
Right.
just a ball going across that looks cool. But if they did stuff like that, like the Force, like it grabs the ball and then you have to knock that ball out to like continue the mode or something. Like it has to have something like that, or it's
Yeah, I mean,
it has to have something solid.
Totally. Well, Cody, like any advice you have to people that are sort of looking at their home collection and realizing, shit, why do I have 20 pins just sitting here that I never turn on? Maybe I should put some on location. If anyone's thinking of becoming like an operator and testing the waters, what are some tips or advice you can give those people?
Number one is like everything starts with thought. Thought creates. So you have to visualize this. Like I visualized this in my head before I even bought one game. If you don't visualize having a game out, then you're not going to do it. But if you visualize like, oh, I could put a game in this shop, or you visualize like, hey, this bar could use a pinball machine, or my friend's store. That's the first step, and then also, I talk to operators too about this, and about like the negotiation strategy. You go in and you say, hey, have you ever had pinball in here? And they say yes or no, whatever. They say nah, and then they say, would you like one? And see, everybody's life is ruled by 2 words: interest level. Interest level goes from 0 to 100. It's a quantifiable thing. So if you go into a place and they say, hey, you want a pinball machine? There you go. What? Walk. Or if they say, I don't know, walk. Maybe, walk. If they say, hell yeah, now you can negotiate. And I've known operators that put games out, like operators, and they're like, well, I put these games in here. And I said, well, how did negotiation go? Well, they said they didn't mind. I'm like, then you're doomed. But if you can find a place that's hot and they'll give you the best cut possible, right. Parts break, but to me that's like, if a part breaks and you put a new part in it, you're still getting value back in a game. So I'd say, just do it. If it's a place you like, it's a place you frequent already, you already have rapport with it. I put games in places. I don't go to bars. I don't even drink. But I put them in like hipster bars, dive bars, and I go in there and, but they welcome it.
Right. That's
the X factor. And just, heck, I'll play games for other friends. Why not?
Now I got to ask a question for our good friend Wise Snow over on Pinside. Are dollar bill acceptors like a requirement for location-based games?
Depends. If there's a change machine like right next to it, not so much. But if there isn't, you should whenever possible. If I do not have a change machine in a location, because that's the location's duty. If they care, they're going to have a change machine. If they don't, they're not. Right. Now, locations that don't put a change machine there, it is an X factor. Like, I have to have a bill acceptor if possible. And that's the problem is some of these games, well, most of my games, like, if there's a change machine, there is a change machine. But if I have a game out and I can't put a bill acceptor on it and there isn't a change machine, that's a quandary right there.
Right.
Like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, you shouldn't do that.
Right. Well, Cody, this has been a great chat, and I hope you can come on the show again sometime soon. I know that the listeners always enjoy interviews. It gets me off of the soapbox, and I always try to keep the episodes within an hour, so we're around like 56 minutes minus. Well, in addition to my little intro I'll do, but I want to thank you for coming on. Any last comments you want to make before we do this again sometime in the near future?
To be continued. Just have fun, play some pinball. My philosophy, the psychology of pinball 101 is pinball puts you in the now. It puts you in now status where you're not thinking about your work or bills, or you're not, looking at your phone. It puts you in a now status. If it doesn't, you're not doing it right. But it puts you in the now. So just keep playing pinball, putting you in the now, and just and have fun. If you're not having fun, get another hobby.
Right. I think it's some great advice. And actually, now that I think about it, I do. My mind never wanders when I play pinball. It's always on what's going on the playfield. So I think that's it's a unique quality. It's probably one of the hard to describe reasons why so many people do love the hobby and enjoy pinball as an entertainment device. So Cody, thank you so much for joining Kaneda's Pinball Podcast. You can send all the hate mail you get after joining Kaneda's Pinball Podcast to my apartment in New York City, and I will happily write back to those bastards. And we invite anyone and everyone who wants to share their pinball points of view onto this podcast. Just email me at kanedapinball@gmail.com. But Cody, thank you so much for taking an hour out of your day to join us, and we will talk again real soon.
Thank you very much.
All right, Cody. Take it easy.